We're State. I'm Cassie.
I'm Keegan.
I'm Christina.
I am so glad to see you guys. Just 2 weeks away because we've, but it feels like it's been a month.
It does. It feels like it's been a really long time. Even though really we only took like 1 week off, but it's like 2 weeks total of kind of like not seeing each other. And it feels so strange whenever we do that.
It also was weird for...
I feel like
weird for me because I was in Mexico. I was in Mexico City. So it was like close to your guys' time zone too. So it was like...
I know. It's like you could just reach right across the land. Yeah. Yeah. I do also feel like in that time span, 8 million things have happened. I think that's part of why it feels like...
I mean, if you're not on Where's the Body in the rug?
What is in the carpet?
What's in the rug? What's in the rug?
Oh my God, you guys. The way we all texting each other last night, watching her live stream. Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah.
So what do we think? So what happened was, to give everybody a quick rundown if you're not chronically online the way that we are. So this woman named Katie, she is in Ohio. She was like, "Hey, I was pulling this tree up in my yard. I just got this house. I was like pulling this tree up in my yard, and whenever we were like digging to pull the roots out or whatever, I think that's what was happening.
They blood good tree, by the way."
Just put a pin in that. So
also, it started with the haunting, though.
Oh yes, she was convinced her house was haunted. That was the thing. Right. She started making TikToks where she's like, "My house is haunted," and then in the backyard, when they pulled this tree up, like 6 feet down, there was a rug rolled up down there, which is not normal behavior. I don't. No. Other than it's a body, I don't understand any reason why you would bury a rug in the ground, like why there's 6 feet in the ground,
This is what I was telling Eric last night was I did the whole breakdown for him, is that the fact that 2 separate cadaver dogs,
thank you,
definitely alerted to decomp being on that rug means that somebody died on that rug. Okay, so what's a plausible explanation? Grandma had a heart attack and died on the rug. Fido passed away on the rug. Okay. But you wouldn't bury that rug 6 feet underground and then fucking plant a tree on top of it.
It's weird behavior.
Tree, like you said.
Yeah. It's weird behavior. Now, the cops did tell her that they didn't find anything. So they did this whole kind of runaround situation where initially she called the cops because everybody on TikTok was like, "Girl, you have to call the cops." Because she was just going to be like, "Oh, well." And it's like, no, you can't do that. So she called the cops and they were like, "Oh, IDK. Not my problem. Yeah, don't know what to do. All shoulders, And then... eventually, because she went viral on TikTok, Homicide did contact her, and they were like, "Okay, we're going to come by with some dogs, and we're going to dig this up."
Somebody in Homicide has a daughter who's very much on TikTok and was like, "Yes, Dad, you have to. Mom, you got to take a look at this."
Yes, totally. So they did, and then the cops said that there was nothing there, that it wasn't anything. But there is a lot of speculation online that they just told her that because they don't want the details of whatever the investigation is. They don't want to compromise the investigation by it being all over TikTok. So they're like,
and
tell her
also
there's nothing
her and
there.
her family. Because if there is somebody that was murdered, then it's not like the person, if somebody did something like this, isn't out there maybe watching and like putting her family in harm.
Right. Yeah, no, there were definitely like people commenting being like, "Oh, it's this part of Columbus that she lives in, like blah, blah, blah." I'm like, I'd be terrified that somebody's going to show up and be messing around back there.
Absolutely.
No. Yeah. No, it's too much. There's that. I don't know if it's October and it's spooky season. And that's why it's all in our FYP. But then I was scrolling and there was another like possible body in a Tupperware container in the side of the road. I'm like, what? How did I make it onto found body TikTok?
When you say Tupperware, are you meaning like a big... Like,
yes,
big, like not like an actual like Tupperware, like a Tupperware party.
Cut them into sandwich sizes.
Yes.
No, what do you call those big bins? that are like.
I mean, they're made by Tupperware, but yes, yeah. I know what you're saying now.
Yes.
Because I also was like, what,
Yeah, the things
salad
you put your
bowl, or-
Christmas ornaments in or whatever and put in
Yes.
the closet for a whole year. That's what you're talking about. Because you had texted that and I was like, Tupperware? Because that
Like
gives me
Rubbermaid.
Yes, like a Rubbermaid.
Yes.
Because Tupperware gives me a very specific vision, and I'm like, what did they do to that body? You know,
Same girl.
No, you've got that, and then of course, like all the Diddy stuff that's coming
Lord.
up. Did
I
he
swear
do
to
it?
God. I mean, yes, of
Yes,
course, yeah.
obviously,
Like
yes.
my TikTok
No
was
question.
nothing but Diddy for like a week.
Yes.
And man, did I watch every single somebody
Yeah.
protect Jaguar White. Like someone protect her. Like she is spilling on everybody.
Yeah, I
never pass up her videos.
I gotta also shout out Josh Johnson, who's a comedian that probably know him from being on The Daily Show as a correspondent. He's so funny. He has like the greatest bit, just the longest bit, breaking down the entire Diddy accusations from Jump. Why him and 50 Cent don't get along, that whole thing. It's
Oh, shit, I watched that.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yep.
He's like, Vinny don't play with P. Diddy.
No.
No.
Nobody should be playing with P. Diddy. Okay.
No one.
50 Cent coming out of who would have thought, because I'm a millennial and, it was just like, yeah, 50 Cent was a thing, but, he's got wealthy from vitamin water and he's been hating Diddy now for like 20 fucking years.
It's a full-time
25?
occupation.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, to be
Yes.
honest. I surely do. There are like a handful of people who came out so far have, at the time of this recording, have come out clean from the Diddy thing. And it's like 50 Cent, Eminem,
Marcel Jordan.
Yep.
and Ice Cube.
Yeah.
I love that Ice Cube made an
Thank
announcement.
God.
Like Ice Cube was performing. He's like, yo, you will never see me on a Diddy tape. I want you to know that right now. I didn't go to those parties. I was
Respect.
at home with my fucking kids. You're like, great.
Respect.
Great.
Thank God.
Great.
Oh God. My childhood is just vanishing before my eyes.
Get it while you
Like,
can, man. Whatever you can still listen to, you better pump up
Jeez.
the jams because
Yep.
it's gonna be gone before you know
Listen,
it. Soon we're
it's
gonna be
Friday
listening.
night and I feel all right.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all we got.
Enjoy those Will Smith movies while you can.
Oh boy. Oh. Shots fucking fired. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Don't sue us. Allegedly.
Oh no. Jesus.
Dude, the amount of people who are just fingers crossed, toes crossed, calling publicists.
Girl.
Dude.
Jay-Z, man, she is coming for his ass.
Yeah.
Jaguar White.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
She's got him and her cross out.
Oh, she does not like him.
Hairs.
I don't know what he
No.
did to her, but like she's got her sights set on him for sure. I mean, listen, the Me Too movement really skipped over a lot of people in the music industry. Like it was very Hollywood focused when it happened.
Surprisingly.
And it really kind of, everyone in the music industry kind of got a little bit of a pass on that. And the time for reckoning is now. It is happening now. So
I agree. Yeah, I think the backlash against like Dave Grohl and then seeing like Anthony Kiedis is dating a literal child, like a child.
disgusting.
And
Yeah.
hasn't blatantly come out and said in his book, as Keegan has pointed out before.
Yeah.
There's,
Ugh.
no, get him. I'm here for it.
We live in such a strange timeline because it's like all of this is happening. There's an election coming up. There was the VP debate, and then
there?
Yes, I know exactly. Before I got kicked off of Cassie's Disney Plus account, I was watching.
Not by me.
Not by you. No, by the
I
mouse.
don't want people to think I'm an asshole.
I was watching Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, which, what a journey. I mean, I could have binged the whole thing, but I knew from just being online that episode 5, one of the husbands was going to get really kind of like like emotionally abusive, and I was just not in a place where I wanted to like watch that. But I had steeled myself and I was ready to wrap it up. But then Disney Plus was like, hold your fucking horses, pay for your own account. You're a grown woman, you know? But
do you know how much you have to spend though to get like all of that? It's like cable. It's like paying for cable again.
One other service. Like if I don't have it, I don't fucking have it at this point. I'm just like, I guess I gotta miss out because I already pay for too many subscription services. Like enough is enough. But Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, what a ride. The first episode, you can tell they shot a pilot and then they came back like 6 months later. Like I guess the pilot, you know, screened well enough that they were like, all right, we're going to get back there and we're going to shoot with these girls. I remember when the Mom Talk swinging scandal happened. And I was not on Mom Talk. I had no business being on Mom Talk. I'm not interested in that kind of content at all.
I'm not a mom. Don't want to be a mom.
I don't live in Utah. You know, I'm like, I don't have ass length extensions. It has nothing to do with me. Okay. But I remember when the swinging stuff happened because everybody was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But as someone who used to live in Utah, let me first of all tell you, it's not that weird. Like that is low key a part of the culture that I feel like people don't talk about, that kind of thing happens.
I feel like the stricter the rules on people, the more like quote unquote deviant behavior that they'll have. If you say something's like off limits or you make it desirable, then, you know?
Yeah. Look at kids. If you tell them, they're like not interested. Yeah, don't tell me what to do.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the interesting thing about these people. I think that's what is so interesting as outsiders, as people who aren't part of this culture directly, is so many of these girls or women, because most of them are in their late 20s, early 30s. Most of these women started having children, got married and started having children very, very young. And so a lot of them had not experienced anything, like nothing sexually, drugs, alcohol, things like that. Like they just hadn't. So they are behaving like teenagers now. Yes. Like a lot of the soft swinging when she's describing, like you can watch
swinging.
Yeah, that's what but also she got on Nick Viall's podcast and I was like, this was not soft swinging. Like you guys were swinging. Like just because your husbands were in the room does not mean that like there was nothing soft about this shit.
Listen, again, I'm going to say it. That's actually an orgy.
Yeah. Like,
that's not.
You're so right.
Calling orgies soft swinging.
Yeah. I'm like, that
group sex is.
Yes. That's what's happening is because she was saying that they would be having sex. Like they'd swap partners, but they'd be having sex in the same bed next to each other. So I'm like, no, you're just.
It's an orgy.
This is just.
Has no one watched Pornhub in this group? Like,
well, maybe not them.
If you're looking for that video, it ain't under swapping. It's under orgy. Okay.
Yep. It might be under both. There might be dual tags happening there.
Yeah. But you gotta do the tags for the algorithm. You know.
Yeah.
So.
That's right. So true.
But
one's crisscross applesauce. What?
When she's describing how everything got started, like she's talking about games that they would play, like drinking games and stuff that they would play. But I'm like, but these are games that you play when you're in high school or college, right? Like it's like these are 7 minutes in heaven. Oh, I dare you to kiss so and so's husband. Like that's how this shit started. And so you're like, well, yeah, dude, because you guys are all sexually repressed and didn't experience anything before you had kids. There's one Mormon wife, and it led me back to TikTok. I actually made a TikTok about it because there is one of the wives who I'm like, why aren't we talking about this at all? Like it is not brought up by anyone that one of the wives, Michaela, got married at 16.
Oh,
and her husband was 21 at the time they got married. She had a baby, like at 16, she had a baby and got married, and he was 21, and they started sleeping together when she was 15.
Ew.
And I'm like, Are we just going to gloss right over that whole thing? We're just not going to talk about the fact that she was like a literal fucking child bride?
Child.
Yeah.
A full-on child.
What in the world? Like,
Wow.
anyway,
Wowie,
it's
wow.
I need to finish that, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not paying for another subscription service, but I'm gonna have to find a way around it because I gotta finish this series.
I'm going to need you to finish this and report back. So
I surely will. I surely will.
Seriously. It's also, Libra season. So, before we exit Libra season, and aren't we under like a Libra full moon or something
We
like that
are, yes, yeah, or a new moon, one or the
Something like
other,
that.
but yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we gotta fuck, marry, kill some Libras. I don't
all
don't
right.
want to be accused of skipping one.
Absolutely.
right. You can't.
And especially
I mean,
not
we got
Libra.
some good ones too. We got Donald Glover in here, but we've definitely done him a
We
bunch.
have, yeah. Oh, there's some good ones though. Okay, there's some ones that we haven't really done a ton of. So I think you know what,
Wayne.
Lil Wayne.
Lil Wayne.
He's a little Make America Great Again though. Lil Wayne.
no.
Sorry.
Yeah. So is Ice Cube.
I know. I was not going to talk about that, but
What?
Yep. Mm-hmm. You didn't know?
R.I.P.
I know. Cassie's
But at
face.
least he's not on
bad
the
again.
Diddy tapes. At least he didn't go to the Diddy parties. Okay, we can at least
I didn't
hold
hang
that
my
up
hat on
all
that
right?
one thing.
That's right.
On that one thing, Mr. F the police.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's
Cool,
got
cool,
money
cool,
now.
cool,
Okay,
cool, 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 cool.
that's what happened.
Wow.
Okay. We also didn't talk about, and we don't need to linger on this, but I think it will lead to who I'm going to pick for FMK. Maggie Smith passed away.
I know.
I know. Professor McGonagall, we love you. But as a classy, I don't know if you guys have ever been on the TikTok where it's like the dames at tea and that guy does the voiceover. Amazing. Yes, Cassie knows where I'm going with this.
Yep.
So Julie Andrews is thankfully still amongst us. Okay, on this earthly plane, and I love
Thank
her
God.
so much. And I'm gonna pick Julie Andrews as my Libra for FMK.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
We're going old school.
Gosh, there's so many good ones, and most of the good ones are actually females.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some of the guys, I'm like,
I support that, honestly.
yeah.
With where we are in the world right now, safer bet.
Truly. And on that note, I'm going to choose Susan Sarandon.
Oh my God. Oh, this is great.
I am choosing somebody who's dry wit and just general not give a fuckedness. Dakota Johnson.
Oh.
I fucking love her. She makes me laugh so
Really?
hard.
Me too.
She's
Me too.
so-
She grew on me. Like she did totally grow on me because I remember thinking like, I don't get her. I feel like she's so boring. But then you know what really did it for me was that Architects Digest, like whenever they went into her house and the limes made me laugh so fucking hard. Do you know about this, Cassie?
No.
So she had people come in to tour her house. And of course, like behind the scenes, you know that whenever they're coming in with a camera crew, someone comes and they like dress the house to make it look really, really nice. Right.
Right.
So she's like touring the house and she's like talking about, my fireplace, my blah, blah, blah. And she gets into the kitchen and there's just a big bowl of limes that someone had just clearly put there. And she's just like, she's picking them up and she's like, I just love limes.
Just love limes.
I love them so much. And then later on, she's like, I'm allergic to limes. I don't know why somebody put this in my house.
She's like, I don't know who the fuck put this there, but honestly, get them the fuck out.
I mean,
No,
she
she's
like
so funny.
single-handedly took down Ellen DeGeneres too.
Oh, good for her.
I loved that interview. Yeah. Where she was just like,
it's funny because I'd kind of heard some negative things about her, kind of just in general, like that she was a bit of a diva and...
well, I think she's very aloof. I
Yeah,
think that she has kind of like an aloof attitude. And I mean, obviously, like we don't know her personally. I have no idea. Maybe she is like a total bitch. She is also a Nepo baby. So that's very possible.
Yeah. But I think I know what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Okay.
I think I know what I'm going to do. I think. only because I know I'm going to fuck Dakota Johnson, because I'm sorry, you were in 50
Beautiful.
Shades. Like, you think that I'm not going to be like, let's try to play some of those out.
Have you watched those movies lately?
No, absolutely not. You leave them exactly where they were in the past. Ma'am, I ain't got no time for that.
I actually made Eric sit through all 3 of them.
Girl,
Disrespectful.
torture.
That's disrespect. But I hope you had a good fuck afterwards.
Dude, but seriously, those movies are actually so unsexy.
That's what I was going to say. Are they even sexy? Because I don't even remember being turned on. Like, I was just like, by the books or the movies. I just remember being like,
I thought the books were hot, and I don't care what anybody says.
I'm not judging you. Different strokes for different folks.
Do not fucking judge me.
I would never.
Literally different strokes. But no, it's yeah. I love her personality, but yeah, I'm gonna fuck her as well. I think that's who I would choose. But trying to choose who to marry is proving to be very difficult.
It is tougher. I think that I'm going to marry Julie Andrews, and I think that I'm going to friend Susan Sarandon. I just feel like, God, I just want to I want to take all the time in the world just sitting with Julie Andrews. I just want her to tell me her whole story.
I want her to read me stories in that beautiful voice she has. She has the most stunning voice. Yeah.
Oh, she's going to, that she makes the best cup of tea.
Oh,
you've
yes.
ever had in your life. You don't even like tea, and you're going to like her tea.
Oh, 100%. She puts love in it. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. So I too am going to marry Julie Andrews. Like, I feel like that is just the way. I feel like she's got like a really charming estate on the English countryside, and we're going to have
like a little cold.
Yeah, but it's
have a nice fire.
Okay. And she's always got fires going. There's nice comfy slippers happening, like gardening. She's got a tea garden. Like, it's going to be just lovely. Maybe hot take. I think Susan Sarandon of the 3 of these is going to be the best in bed.
Oh,
you're not.
I think
wrong.
she's going to be the best in bed. Like, I think that she's the freakiest to me out of these 3 people, because like Dakota Johnson is like, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. That's how I feel about her with 50 Shades.
Sex.
She's
like, I don't have sex, but I play sex on TV.
Yes. I don't think she's actually super into it. Not in this. Susan Sarandon fucks, and she still fucks. Like, she actually recently kind of went semi-viral on TikTok because she was being body shamed because the woman is like 80 fucking years old and has the best cleavage I've ever seen, and was wearing like a top that like her titties were out and they looked good.
Her.
Yep. And so I'm like, I respect it.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna fuck Susan Sarandon, and I'm gonna friend Dakota Johnson because I think she's very funny. I think that like she does have that kind of humor that is not obvious, that she will low key subtly have me in stitches at the dinner table. So yeah.
She leaned over the table and was like, "Can I be a bitch about something for a second?" Oh my God,
Christmas come early. Yeah. Amazing.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm going to fuck Dakota Johnson, and I'm going to marry Susan Sarandon because she is a bad ass bitch. Yeah. She's been a badass bitch. She's still being a badass bitch. She's an activist. She's intelligent. She's beautiful, warm, smart. Susan Sarandon and I. Exactly. Oh, and going shopping with her and getting those like grown up, fancy, super tailored clothes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, she's going to make you feel real good about yourself. You just know it.
Yes.
That is something about Libras that I feel like we don't talk about enough, is like if a Libra is your friend, they will make you feel like the baddest bitch in the room. Yeah. Like they will make you feel hot as shit. So I love that.
Yeah.
And it's my opposite. So it could go both ways. I really feel
hit or miss.
It's either we're going to love each other or we're going to hate each other. So I don't know if I've made the right decision, because it's not usually the Aries that makes that decision. It's always the Libra.
They put
Aries
everything on the scales.
Yeah. And Aries is just like, if I'm too much, find less.
That's true.
Oh, man. Well, you guys want to take 5 and then we'll come back with stories?
Yeah, sounds good.
And we're back. Okay, I have the Tainted Love this week, so I will kick us off with stories. I was dating a girl and went back to her house. We were both early 20s, and she lived with her mom, who I hadn't met, and she didn't know I existed. We'd been drinking on the date. I woke up in the middle of the night, still drunk and desperate to pee. Instead of doing the logical thing of waking my date up and asking her where the toilet is, I was so desperate that I just got up and bolted to find the bathroom.
Uh-oh.
Yikes.
My first stop was her mom's bedroom. Of course it was. Her mom was laying sound asleep in the middle of the night and is awoken by a literal stranger bursting through her bedroom door, shouting, "Shit, wrong room."
Oh no.
My God.
Whilst doing an "I'm about to pee myself" dance and then slamming the door after running out. I then went downstairs and was in a blind panic by this point, just running back and forth between different rooms. I literally couldn't hold it in any longer and ended up peeing in the cat's litter tray. Listen, you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do.
At least it was on the floor or I don't know, on the rug.
Options were limited.
Oh my God. That's going to be a big clump to scoop up.
The next day, I woke up and had forgotten the whole ordeal. When my date asked, "Hey, did you go into my mom's bedroom last night?" Then it all came flooding back, pun intended. I told my date what had happened and hoped she would see the funny side. She did, thankfully. But then she went on to tell me that they did not have a cat or a litter tray.
I'm sorry, what?
No. To this
I'm sorry,
day,
what?
I have no fucking clue where I ended up peeing. Nobody does.
No one knows.
It's a mystery.
Oh my God.
Where could she have gone pee? Like, I feel like I would have had to find out. Like, I would have had to be like, we got to go downstairs. I know I ran downstairs. Like, let's investigate every inch of this apartment or this house.
What a great, what a great Nancy Drew book that would be.
The mystery of the missing pea.
Yes. Exactly.
Oh God. That is yikes.
I gotta know, like, where I have no idea where you could pee in a house where it wouldn't be discovered. Some kind of pipe? I don't know. How would she get into a pipe?
Maybe a rug that... Maybe if it was like a rug, like a bath rug or something, like a small rug, like it's kind of the same shape as a litter. Yeah. But if it dried down quickly enough, like, I don't know. And if you weren't like actively going and holding it up to your nose, maybe you wouldn't notice right away.
I feel like you would.
And then what you do is you dig a hole 6 feet in the ground, you bury that rug and plant a bloodgood tree on top of it.
That's what we all do, isn't it?
Oh my God.
It's just standard
Mystery
procedure.
Solved. Good job, Nancy Drew. You've done it.
Thanks.
Oh no. Okay. So first of all, content warning from this story, because from the start, there's a age gap that isn't good. It's not great. It doesn't look good.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Let me just start by saying, so when I, female, was 17, I started seeing this 23-year-old guy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, I don't like
that. As somebody who was also 17 and was like dating a 21-year-old. Relatable content, but not fucking good.
And for the record, it's not like, for me and with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives girl, like, you being 16 and being interested in a 21-year-old is normal for a 16-year-old.
Right thing.
A 17-year-old being interested in a 23-year-old or being flattered that they're giving her attention is normal. It's not normal for a man in his 20s to be interested in a literal fucking teenager. That's not normal. Like, stop doing that.
Get a grip, guys. I did not want anything too serious going into it. It was mainly just fooling around in the bedroom and rarely ever going out on actual dates. I had no problem with this. However, the second time we met up to Shaboink. The second time we met up to Shaboink, and the second time we had ever actually seen each other, he told me he loved me.
Red flags fucking everywhere.
Whoa.
The fact that he's not taking you anywhere, that's probably why he dates teenagers, because they're fine with just like fucking around in his bedroom in his mom's house or whatever. You know what I mean? And then like love bombing you by telling you he loves you right away. Red flags are a flying.
Yep.
Are a flying. And she says, bit fast for my liking, but to fool around with, okay. But he also kept up bringing up how he wanted to have kids. And I told him straight up that I am not the person for that. I do not want kids. I told him several times.
I'm still in high school.
She is a kid. She is a kid. What? No babies having babies.
Oops.
What?
Cassie.
I mean, technically I was 18. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I do not want kids ever. I told him several times. He would always say he understood and how he would never want to force something like that on me. You don't say. Yet would still repeatedly joke about ripping my birth control out of my arm to get me pregnant.
That's fucking
not a joke.
Creepy.
Gross.
Really
not
gross.
a joke. Not a good joke. You don't understand what jokes are. It's not it. We were fooling around for around 4 months before he decided to go back to uni. I figured good on him for getting that education. He had already been to uni once before he had met, and dropped out fairly shortly after. He would be moving quite far away, so we had a talk about what would be happening between us. He said he wouldn't mind trying to keep a long distance relationship. I did not want this. I've been keen on the idea for I've never been keen on the idea of long distance, and honestly didn't really want a relationship with this guy, which was something that I had been very honest about from the time we met. He didn't sound too happy about this, but agreed anyway. We said our goodbyes, and he had a very minimal contact for the next 3 to 4 weeks while he was at uni. Then it started getting weirder. He left
don't
uni.
Say. This guy seems totally normal and mature and well-adjusted.
Completely normal, well-adjusted human. He left uni, fully dropped out, moved back in with his mom, and asked if we could meet up. So I went to see him, and he told me that if I didn't want to be long distance, then he would stay home here with me.
No.
Basically telling me that he left uni to come back with me.
That sounds like a you problem. Okay. You're not going to try and guilt me into staying in this relationship. No.
You know what turns
17.
me on? You know what turns me on is you not living up to your potential, or like people that make their decisions for other people. It's just don't stop doing that. It's not a good
icky.
look. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think this is why Chris likes me, because I strictly don't ask him. I'm like, hey, you want to move to Germany? Cool. No, kidding. Which was a big shock considering how I had tried to make it clear I wasn't after anything serious. I was confused and felt horrible. He asked if he could finally be my boyfriend and to start going on real dates. I felt like I hadn't been clear enough about what I wanted from him and led him on somehow.
No, you feeling terrible is the point. He wants you to feel terrible. Like that is by design, sweetie.
And led him on somehow to the point where he literally left uni. I said yes, slightly because I felt guilty, mainly because I didn't really know what else to do.
I mean, this is an answer. This is something that I would have done at 17. 100%. I would have done this exact same thing, because I would have felt that guilt. I would have felt responsible. I would have felt like I wasn't clear enough, or I'd done something like. This is so relatable, but it also speaks to why men like this go after 17-year-olds.
Yes.
because they're more likely to have that kind of response.
Yeah. It wouldn't be 30s or 40s years old us.
Yeah. No,
couldn't be me. So we start going on dates, and he seems to be over the moon every time we see each other. The dates brought up some questions, though. He always insisted on paying for things online from his phone, pre-booking online, ordering food online. Anything at all he would pay for from his phone, which is quite common nowadays, but he had always had to text one of his friends before doing this. Originally, I thought maybe he just doesn't have much money and is asking to borrow some from a friend. I brought it up to him and told him I can always pay for dates too. It doesn't have to always be him. He insisted that he would pay for everything and said that money was no issue for him. One day, we go bowling, and as always, he has pre-booked online. When we get there, he tells me, just go along with whatever he says. I don't know what he meant by that until he's speaking to the woman at the front desk and says that he booked online under a random name that I'd never heard before. I didn't want to say anything until we got back, so we leave and I start asking him what that was all about and where that name was from. He then told me that there's something he wants to tell me about and how he trusts me now that we are together properly. This man proceeds to tell me about how he's affording all these dates. And
you know what? Don't keep me. I want plausible deniability. I don't want to have to testify. Just stop right there. You know?
Yeah. But he doesn't, Keegan. He goes on to tell her that he's affording these dates with other people's money. Apparently, one of his friends friends knew how to get a hold of other people's credit card information, and that's why he's always had to text him before booking anything online.
Again, if you are doing that, you keep that shit to yourself. I hope you never feel comfortable to tell me that information ever. Like, what is wrong with you?
What in the chase glitch is happening?
Oh my God. Like, yeah, you know, you might not have to look, girl, if you want to get away from him, don't worry about it. You might not have to worry about it much longer because he's going to get arrested.
Jail time.
Right? Yes.
Yes.
I told him that was so incredibly fucked up and that it had to stop if he wants to keep seeing me. He did agree and said that he wouldn't do it again. But surprise, surprise, he did again. So I broke things off with him. About a week after we broke up, I had a few things that belonged to him at my place. I know he still had some of my things, so I said, let's plan to meet and at a midpoint so we can both drop off our stuff. He agreed, but when he got to town, I saw him. He hadn't brought my things with him. He said he'd forgot. Of course.
Oh, okay. You forgot the whole purpose of why we're meeting today?
Exactly. Exactly. Come on. I may be 17, but I'm not fucking ignorant.
That's right.
I just gave him his things back, didn't bother asking to meet up again. I was planning on leaving and going shopping on my own, but for some reason, he decided to join me shopping. That's not.
No, that's not a decision you get to make. No. This is a solo venture, my dude. I don't need you to accompany me. This is not a date.
He didn't need anything. He just decided he would tag along. I was uncomfortable, but didn't really know how to tell him to leave me alone. The main reason I had gone to town was because I was going to get something private pierced. I still went and got it done, even though he was there. I told him he wasn't allowed in the room with me and he would have to stay in the waiting room. He seemed disappointed, but agreed.
Oh,
After
what?
it was done. I know, it was so weird. He kept begging me to see him, saying that he'd already seen my boobs so many times before and that it wasn't a big deal. I told him to stop asking because it was annoying. I went home and never bothered asking for my things back. He did try to get a hold of me to get them, and I told him just bin him.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was done with him until around a month later when he pops up on my phone, said he really needed to tell me something. He had gone out on a night with some friends, found a one-night stand and got her pregnant. I was really confused as to why he was telling me this.
Yeah, exactly.
And asked what this had to do with me.
Am I doing a fucking documentary on you, dude? I don't need to know.
Exactly.
I don't need to know this information.
Cool. Good for you, I guess. To which point he tells me it's my fault this happened. If I hadn't broken up with him, he wouldn't have slept with her and she wouldn't be pregnant now. I still didn't quite understand. He had always begged me for kids. Why was he having such a problem with us now? So he starts telling me that it should have been me getting pregnant and he wished he'd taken the birth control out of me and gotten me pregnant instead. He kept going on about how he wished it was me instead of her and I should be the mother of his child. Honestly, at this point, I just felt bad for the poor girl who was about to have his baby.
Yeah, this person's like actually dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very scary human being. You know,
It's
name
getting
him.
creepier.
Name drop him so that the authorities can come take him away for credit card fraud, because Jesus Christ. Like, what a terrifying individual.
I know, right? Gross. Haven't spoken to him since he blamed me for getting another woman pregnant. Thank God.
Wow. That really is a horror story.
Yeah.
Ugh. Yikes.
Yeah.
No to that. Glad that you're escaped somewhat unscathed. Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh.
Okay. I've got a scary story to tell you guys.
Happy Halloween.
Yes. I'm really getting into the spooky season. So this person says, sorry for typos. So I was to meet up with a beautiful woman who lived about an hour drive from me. We talked for about a week through text, and not to go into any detail too much, but this meetup was aiming to be intimate on a mutual level. Well, that's good. Intimate on a mutual level is what we all strive for.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's potentially a crime.
Yeah. Exactly. I didn't have expectations, and I told her not to feel pressured. We can just talk, and if she feels comfortable, we can do more. So we agreed to meet at her place. It was late, almost after midnight, but we both felt it was the right moment. So I hopped in my car and we texted while I drove to her town just outside of the city. Now I'm on the way there. I reiterated that we don't have to do anything physical. We can just talk. And she was feeling less shy and more interested in the night being wild, which was absolutely fine with me at a degree I can't describe.
This guy seems precious, honestly.
I know.
Yeah.
So I arrived in her neighborhood and parked my car near her house, maybe a few doors down, and I texted her that I was there, which she replied with, I don't see you. And I said, I'm just a couple houses down. I didn't hear back for a minute, but then I noticed her coming out of her house and standing at the top of her driveway. She then texted me, no, come park in the driveway, and gestured to a camera on top of her garage, which I thought was a little odd, but maybe she was gesturing to something else, or she just wanted to feel safe, seeing it as it was late and I was still a stranger to her. That's, reasonable.
Sure.
So I parked my car in her driveway and noticed she had already gone back in the house. She then texted me saying, actually, maybe we could just talk tonight, to which I replied, no problem. I got out of the car, walked in the house, and there she was waiting in her doorway, absolutely smoking hot. And honestly, I was just happy to be in her company. I walked in and we said hi, and I could tell she was shy. Luckily, I'm not shy, so I could keep the conversation going.
Where's the dead body?
Mm-hmm.
My first thought when I walked further into her house was, wow, she's real. And second, wow, her house is very, very dark. The only light I could see was the one.
Is this bitch a vampire?
Her
Is
kitchen.
this a vampire story?
Is she glamoring him?
The only light that I could see was the one that was in her kitchen, and it was barely emanating into the dining and the living room, which kind of made me feel funny. But hey, people do things different at their own houses.
I love this guy, I have to say.
Oh my
he
God.
seems so sweet and just like overly accommodating, adorable.
Yeah.
Adorable.
She showed me her kitchen, and there was a little TV in there playing a Mexican soap opera, and we made small talk and slowly made our way to the living room. We sat down on the couch, and I made sure to give her space on the couch so she didn't feel like I was going to get handsy.
Oh, no.
So I sat a full cushion away, which I think is fair. We talked for maybe 20 more minutes, and it was great. I think I made her feel safe, and I believe we were both enjoying ourselves. Then suddenly she says, so I have a friend who is my lawyer and she knows you are here right now. To which I reply, okay, that's cool. I immediately was weirded out by this and was a bit confused. And she said she just wanted to let me know and didn't really add much to that. Now this is where the evening begins to take a very odd turn. She then becomes very comfortable with sitting close to me, and things were heading towards a physical area very fast. And all that was going through my mind was our last text, which she said, we're only going to talk. And the fact her lawyer friend knows I'm there. So I'm hesitant. Trying to be careful.
Alarm bells are ringing. I have no idea where this is headed, but doesn't feel like it's headed anywhere good.
All right. She then says, I want to show you something. And she takes me by the forearm and pulls me through her dark living room.
No, thank you, please.
No,
I'm plenty. I'm going to go home.
Towards the stairs to the second floor of the house. She then tells me, go on ahead.
Nope.
Absolutely fucking not. In someone else's house? No. Never go on ahead. You're coming with me.
Now remember, it's pitch black and I'm standing looking up those stairs into the dark, seeing the slightly dim amber light from the kitchen growing dimmer and more sinister looking, casting long shadows only seen in nightmares across the walls and floors. And I instantly have my survival instincts kick in. Something's not right.
Yep.
No. I press on. Because that's what you
never
do.
Press on.
No.
I have read enough Stephen King to know that this is the point at which you turn around, you make an excuse, and you go home. Okay, I don't know what's in there, but it's not good.
What's in the dark of the stairs? No, I keep going because that's what you do when there's a beautiful woman telling you
Vampire.
where to go.
See, this is it's too easy to trick them. Like, honestly, it's too easy to trick them. That's why so many, like, there's vampires, there's mermaids. That's why they're all pretty. It's because that's all it takes.
Yep,
that's right.
Just being pretty.
So I get 3/4 of the way up the stairs and I stop. Now, a funny thing about me, when I get nervous, I start laughing. Some of you will know what I mean. Yeah. And I'm there nearing the top of the stairs, starting to laugh and thinking to myself, this is what happens right before people are murdered.
That's right.
Oh, no.
She asked me, why am I laughing? And I just said, well, it's dark. Can you go ahead of me? She's like, nah, keep going.
No.
Absolutely fucking not. I don't know you like that.
So I'm laughing even more at this point. And then she has the nerve to say, go to the room to the right, which I can describe only as the blackest black that has ever blacked. No. Just an empty, foreboding void.
Do you
hungry
have lights?
For anything that is crazy enough to venture in?
Why are there does this house not have electricity? Like, where are the lights? Why do you not have any lights? I don't understand. At this point, I would have taken my phone out. I gotta be honest. Like, the flashlight is coming on my phone. Like, no.
So dark. This is where I say, hell no, this is too much for me. I was laughing and talking at the same time, telling her, you need to go in there and turn on a damn light.
Yes.
She's
you
like,
weirdo.
Why? Now she's starting to laugh. I'm giggling like I'm in high school at this point, saying, is there someone here?
Oh, baby.
Oh, my God.
Which she assured me there wasn't. I made her go in the room, turn the light on, and open the closet. Poor baby is so scared.
Oh my God. I need to see what's in the closet to open it all up.
Actually, I have so much respect for him that he did that. Like, he's like, nah, I'm creeped out to the level where just looking in the room is not going to suffice. I'm going to need you to open that closet up.
Check under the bed. Like, I want all of it. Are we all clear? Okay. Suddenly I felt silly, but this actually made her want me more somehow. She started getting very handsy with me. Long story short, there was nothing going on after this. I just wanted to run out there so bad. Nothing felt right. And
I do not trust her.
No.
I'm so glad he trusted his instincts on this, because that behavior is strange.
Yeah.
It's strange.
It is.
Eventually, after 10 minutes laying in bed, I said I should go, bracing for a gun being stuck in my mouth. I stood up and she said, kiss me like you love me. And I kissed her like I'd never kissed anyone before hastily running downstairs to the front door.
With her. I'm so scared of her.
Forgot my shoes, jumped in my car, and drove away into the night.
This is a character from an Anne Rice novel. I am uncomfy. I don't trust that woman.
Weird.
Deleted her number from my phone, looked in the mirror, and yelled into myself, "What the fuck was that?" True story. I think maybe I overreacted, but I guess you had to feel the vibe of that house.
You reacted appropriately.
Yeah.
I would have done the same thing. And also, I am big on vibes. And also, vibes in the dark are different. And like, I would have felt the exact same way. Like, it's unsettling.
That's right.
Even if there's nothing in that house, the fact that the other person that you're with can't respect that this is like that you're uncomfortable,
right?
You know, is the reddest of flags. Of everything could have been normal, but if you reverse the genders, and this was like a guy doing the exact same thing to a girl, like this would be very, very threatening, scary. Behavior. Like, no, you're not overreacting. That shit was weird.
As a woman, it's also weird that you would do that knowing how fucking creeped out you would be.
Exactly right.
Women are usually very empathetic about that type of stuff. So it's very bizarre.
Something's not firing right. And also the like kiss me like you love me. I'm like, what is wrong with you?
That.
Like, I'm so uncomfortable.
Don't love that.
That guy just laughing, giggling up the stairs like, can you turn on a light?
Oh my God.
We've all been there, man. We really have.
I don't know that I have. I'm going to say it.
I have, like, when you're so freaked out that you start laughing, you know, or like something scary is happening. Yes. I mean, I don't think it's happened to me since I was in middle school, but definitely like you're watching something scary or you're at a haunted corn maze or whatever it is and you start giggling.
But if you're in a stranger's house, you're coming over for the first time meeting and possibly hooking up. You got to turn some fucking lights on.
Also,
you're just sitting there in the dark.
There's something so sinister about, like, it feels like something out of a horror movie that, like, the whole house is dark except for one TV in the kitchen that's playing a Mexican telenovela.
It feels like a movie.
Weird. You know? Like... It's just cinematically strange. Yeah. I don't like that.
Oh my God. I was like crying the first time I read that. It was so fucking funny. Oh my God. Well, you guys want to take 5 and we'll come back with the Tainted Love?
Yes,
sounds
ma'am.
good. Cool. And we're back. Keegan, tell us your Tainted Love.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do for Tainted Love this week. Full disclosure, I thought we were recording last week, so I was like scrambling to get all of my stuff done. So I wrote this a week ago. So a lot of this might be brand new information to my brain as well. Like, you know,
great. We'll all
looked at it in
go
a week.
through this together.
We sure will.
You texted and you're like 9:30 okay or something, 10 o'clock okay. I was like, I'm going to be on a flight.
I will be on a plane to Mexico City. I will not be available.
I did the same thing because I thought that Saturday was October 5th. You know what I mean? I was like, I lost a week. I just lost that
time
whole
is
week.
Timing in a weird way. Yeah, for sure.
So I was like, I was ready to record. I had all my stories and all of that stuff. Everything was together and ready to go on Friday.
I was halfway through watching Talented Mr. Ripley, which is our new Tainted Love movie episode. And I turned it off right then. It was like 11:30 p.m. I was like, you know what? I'll finish this another time. But I knew that my Tainted Love was going to be coming up and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was laying in bed one night and wanted to put on just a nice little comfort movie for myself to go night to. And
so it was a horror movie.
I put on The Conjuring.
There you go. I knew it.
Which is one of my, like, it is so weird. It's like I have a handful of movies that I will put on that I've seen a million times to go to sleep to. And The Conjuring is one. Us is one. And like Silence of the Lambs is one where there's something, I don't know why, there's something wrong with my brain where I'm just like, this is just
about
a nice,
I just want
comfy,
you to know.
cozy.
Yeah, those movies make me incredibly anxious. They're very
I'm
intense.
just like, good night.
I was like, oh, sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite.
I think it's just because I've seen them so many times that it's just something I can kind of have on. I know my brain is not going to get invested in it, and I can just kind of like go to sleep.
Yeah. Me, it's like Zoolander, Super Troopers,
yes.
the other guys.
That makes sense for our personalities. I feel like this tracks completely.
Actually, yeah.
Mine's like a documentary about witches from Nat
100%.
Geo. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
there you go.
cozy.
Yeah.
Truly, this tracks.
But whenever I was watching The Conjuring, it reminded me of the fact that, the Conjuring universe has made so much fucking money. I mean, it includes The Conjuring and 2 Conjuring sequels, 3 Annabelle movies, and 2 Nun movies. And it has grossed roughly $2.2 billion since the first movie came out in 2013. And kind of like a cornerstone of these movies.
Wait.
Sorry, Cassie? Yes.
The first movie of this franchise was just last year.
No.
2013.
2013,
Yes.
not 2023.
Yeah, so 11 years ago.
I
Math is hard.
am so jealous. Are you going to be doing the Warrens?
I sure am.
Because I've had this on my list.
Yes. Yeah. So, because a cornerstone of these movies, they really do. I mean, of course, you have the supernatural element that people really enjoy. The first Conjuring movie, to me, I saw it in theaters. And yes, it has this kind of like cheese element to it. But it also is kind of the perfect haunted house movie. Like the way that they did it with the ghosts in the house, it feels like a haunted house. But these movies really do, in large part, hinge on the relationship between Ed and Lorraine Warren. And they're portrayed as this kind of like super loving, against all odds couple. And they're played by the beautiful Vera Farmiga. And then, what's his name? Patrick Wilson, who's just like all of our horror daddy because he's in, I feel like, so many horror movies. But they're just this like beautiful, charming couple who's fighting evil together with their superpowers, But the question remains, what were they like in real life? Were they really like that in real life? And how much truth is behind the stories that have created this Conjuring universe? So let's talk about it. I listened to, there's an excellent podcast called You're Wrong About, which I really love, with a podcaster named Sarah Marshall. And she did an episode with Jamie Loftus, who is, she's done a lot of things, but I listened to the Bechdel Cast. I think that's a podcast she's been doing for a really long time, which I really enjoy. And they did an episode together on the Warrens, or Jamie kind of did most of the research and then presented it to Sarah, which is kind of the format of that show. And so I did listen to that, and then that and the rest of the what am I trying to say? The rest of the things will be in our show notes.
Oh,
Sources is the word I was looking for. Yes, those.
Can you tell them writing a research paper? The references.
Yes, the references will be in our show notes. So in the You're Wrong About episode, as well as a lot of information online, it comes directly from the Warrens. Like when you're talking about their background, a lot of that stuff comes directly from them. And so you can go on their website that I think is now run by their son-in-law, and they have a like how they met story on there. And you have to kind of take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt because it came from them. So,
sure, it's a personal telling.
Right. But regardless of that, I'm going to tell you about their childhoods and how they met. So, Ed and Lorraine were childhood sweethearts. They were both born in Connecticut in 1926 and 1927, respectively. They both came from extremely Catholic families, but the couple went out of their way on multiple occasions to distinguish that Lorraine's family was very Catholic, like way more Catholic than Ed's. Like they were both Catholic, but hers was like extremely devout.
Like on the level of Catholic, she's like, I win.
Yes, she wins. Ed would maintain throughout his life that the house that he grew up in was haunted and that he would regularly see ghosts in the home, though they were never violent or aggressive. They were just kind of kicking it, live and let live, ghost. And that it was an open secret within the family that like his dad knew about the ghosts, but they were like, we don't talk about them in pure waspy fashion. They're like, we don't, we don't talk about the ghosts.
That sounds like a Catholic family for sure.
Yeah, you keep that shit to yourself if you see it. Okay.
Bury it deep, 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 deep down. Like the rug.
Never bring it up again.
Like the rug. While Ed would become a self-proclaimed, self-taught demonologist.
Yep. Dude, I was just talking about watching that Nat Geo documentary about witches. And like the amount of just dudes that are like, I'm a demonologist.
Yeah, I hunt witches now, and I'm the expert. Yeah. Trust me. Sources are, trust me, bro. You know, like
I've actually watched a few episodes of some things, and I'm actually now a demonologist myself.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Yep. What?
So while he was the demonologist, Lorraine claimed to be clairvoyant, stating that in the early 2000s, she did an interview and she stated that she first realized she had a gift when she was a child in Catholic school. She says that she and her classmates were planting a tree for Arbor Day. Pause. I didn't know we were celebrating Arbor Day way back in like 1935, but maybe.
Great.
Well, it's very progressive, it feels like.
Yeah.
But they were planting a tree for Arbor Day, and she looked at this little sapling that they'd planted, and she could see the tree that it was going to become. And when she told the nun about
that's having a good no, I'm sorry. That's called having a good imagination. That's not clairvoyance. It's not like you don't know what a tree looks like. Oh, the sapling someday will turn into this thing I've never seen before.
Right.
You know what a tree looks like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you can go back later and be like, you look at it all grown up and be like, nailed it. Yeah. Fucking great at this. You know?
To a T.
But she told the nun about this, and when she did, she was chastised and told that visions like this were black magic and not to bring it up again. So again, just keep that shit to yourself.
Yep,
keep it to yourself.
It's the devil.
It's the devil. Lock it up. Still, throughout her childhood, she claims to have been able to see auras, hear thoughts, see the future, see spirits, etc., etc. So Ed and Lorraine meet when she is 16 and he is 17 at the local movie theater. He buys her an ice cream soda, and she notices that I love this little detail that they thought to write down. One thing that she remembered was that he smelled like Noxema, and I guess that was hot to her.
Is that a clean face I smell?
You know what? Smelling clean does go pretty far.
It does.
Yeah.
Honestly, you shower? That's amazing. You're a 17-year-old boy who doesn't smell like BO. Amazing. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong.
So when he's walking her home, Lorraine says she has a vision of Ed as an older man and knows that she's going to spend the rest of her life with him. So Ed joins the Navy at the end of World War II, and the couple soon marry. And in the early 1950s, they have their one and only child, a daughter named Judy. I also want to point out that these people don't look anything like Vera Farmiga or Patrick Wilson, especially Ed.
You don't say.
Ed,
I'm blown away.
You know, I'm going to say that I did steal this from the You're Wrong About episode. So this is Jamie Loftus's entirely, but there is no other way to explain it. Like, Ed looks like he belongs on The Sopranos. You know, like he's got that kind of like greasy uncle energy where it's like he unbuttons his shirt just a little too much. Yeah. He's maybe wearing a gold chain, you know?
Wow.
He does not look like Patrick Wilson. So we'll just go ahead and get that out of the way right now. When Ed gets out of the Navy, he confides in Lorraine that he believes in ghosts. Can't believe this didn't come up sooner, given that she is a clairvoyant. Very surprised.
I'm surprised she didn't already know, actually.
Yeah.
What if she was like, I know.
Yeah, duh.
I read your thoughts.
But he's like, I believe in ghosts. I love ghost shit. And I want to make a career pivot towards something in that realm. And Lorraine is like, oh my God, you love ghost shit. I love ghost shit too. By the way, I can see spirits and sometimes the future. And he's like, bet, like, let's do this together. We're going to create a ghosty empire.
How does a conversation like this take like 10 years to come out?
I feel like at 16 and 17, that would have come up sooner.
Million
times, I live in a haunted house. I can see trees when they grow up. I feel like that should have been a conversation.
I had my first premonition of a tree at full growth when I was like very young. So, wow.
So in 1952, they found the New England Society for Psychic Research, or NESPR. And Ed takes odd jobs to support the family while they look for ghosty shit to do. The only problem is that they have absolutely no credentials or experience. It turns out if you just tell people, hey, I'm a demonologist because I say so, and hey, I see the future and just fucking trust me, that people don't respond to
weird.
That.
Wow.
Really, really weird. Surprised.
I can't believe that we used to have more critical thinking skills in the past than we do these days.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche. You didn't know that, Democrats can control the weather?
Oh my God, girl.
Anyway.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. No.
Because of this, obviously, they had a hard time gaining access to haunted houses in order to conduct their very necessary research for NESPR.
Of course.
So what they decided to do, and this is clever and I can't believe it worked, Ed had a little bit of a skill as an artist. And so they would research allegedly haunted houses in the area. It is New England, so I imagine there were lots of allegedly haunted houses. And so they would research where these houses were. Then they would drive out to them, and Ed would set up his easel in front of the house. And he would make a sketch of the house. And then Lorraine would take the sketch, go to the door and be like, hey, my husband is an artist and he would like to paint your house. Can we, like, he really loves your house. He thinks your house is beautiful. Can we paint it? And they'd be like, oh my God, do you think our house is beautiful? And they would let them come inside. And that's how they would gain access to the house. And they were pretty charming. So they were able to win these people over. And they'd be like, by the way, I can sense spirits and there are ghosts all through this bitch, right?
Okay.
And like, can we come in and do some research here?
Like,
right?
Get out right now.
But it worked. Like, this tactic, actually, it did work. And so they were able to start building up their, cred as Ghostbusters, basically. Like, they were like Ghostbusters initially throughout Connecticut.
Can you imagine Judy being like in school and them like, what do your parents do? They go into people's houses and tell them they have ghosts.
Well, I'll touch on this later. Like, that's another part of it is in the movies, Judy is a big part of the movies. Like, even the first one, like, their love for her is a big, kind of driving factor. I think in one of the other movies, she's actually kind of a main character. In real life, Judy didn't know what her parents did. Like, they weren't around very much because they were always traveling, doing ghost shit. And they didn't talk to her about this stuff. So she didn't really know what her parents did until she was like a teenager.
Oh my God.
She's just watching like Sesame Street eating cinnamon sugar toast.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like the rest of us Gen Xers, like, what?
So, blah, 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 blah. It wasn't long before people, including very often law enforcement, so maybe it wasn't such an enlightened time, law enforcement and the Catholic Church, who, again, these people are not priests. Like, they have no real credentials to be like doing any of this shit. But law enforcement and the Catholic Church started calling them up to investigate alleged cases of not just ghost activity, but also potential demon and possession cases.
Dude, say what you want about Catholicism, because we have talked about religion on this podcast, and the fact that you guys were like pretty like hardcore Christian growing up, but I'm like, as a Catholic growing up, we're fucking weird too.
Weird.
Oh,
I'm going to say it. Yeah.
very weird. I will say that. Yeah, I won't say more or less weird than any other denomination. But as someone who was not Catholic, Catholicism always looked wild to me. Like I was like, what is going on? You guys have rituals and there's incense and smoke involved. I'm like, what is happening?
Lots of rituals, lots of like.
Yes.
You had a lot of magic.
Yes.
Which I was like that, you got water that can do interesting things if you say some fun stuff over it.
Toast with Jesus on it.
Yep.
I'm not trying to insult anyone who's religious who's listening to this episode, by the way, at all. I'm just saying I'm completely on the outside of it because I didn't grow up Catholic. So this is just what it looked like to me. I'm not belittling any of your beliefs at all.
But what a fun thing, Just make believe. Oh, exorcism and demons.
Jesus.
Oh, okay. But you know what?
There's a lot of fun mythology surrounding Catholicism for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say this. Protestantism has exorcisms too. They're not as ritualized and they're not as they're not as sexy. I'll say that. They're not as sexy as Catholicism does it right. But
not as sexy as pea soup coming out your mouth. But
that's right. Okay, by the time the 70s rolled around, the Warrens were world famous for their work on high-profile cases, such as the Amityville haunting, the Perron family possession, which would become the subject of The Conjuring, the Enfield poltergeist in England, and the Arnie Johnson case, in which the Warrens assisted the defense in presenting a not guilty by reason of demon possession plea in court. And that's the subject of the third Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It, that they're focusing on that case. And there is, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but there is also a documentary on Netflix, or it was on Netflix. I think it's called like Devil on Trial. I have it in my notes later on, where they interview the family and they talk about this whole case.
Interesting.
In the end, the couple would claim to have investigated over 10,000 cases, would write books about their experiences, and would open an occult museum in their home that featured items that they'd confiscated from hauntings, including the infamous Annabelle doll.
This is the Raggedy Ann doll, right?
It's the Raggedy Ann doll. So if you watch the movies, it looks like a very creepy kind of porcelain doll, but the actual doll looks like a Raggedy Ann doll. It's like a big.
It's now in a museum in Key West, I believe.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But since even before the Conjuring universe movies skyrocketed the Warrens into wider public consciousness, people have been trying to get to the heart of who the real Ed and Lorraine really were. So was any of it true? What were their real motivations? Were they anything?
Could she really tell what a tree would look like when it grew up?
Has anyone checked on that tree? Did Lorraine leave a drawing or something that we could compare?
Oh my God, that limb is exactly where she thought it would be.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. While there are people who still believe in the work that the Warrens were doing and believe them to be, altruistic people who are just trying to help, for most people who have seriously looked into the cases and the Warrens themselves, they mostly come out looking like grifters.
Yeah.
With an agenda to, one, make money. That was like a very high priority. And two, they were devout Catholics, and these tactics were used to try and frighten people back into the church. So when the Conjuring movie came out, Ed had already passed away, but 86-year-old Lorraine was a consultant on the film and maintained that the events of the movie were actually true. She actually makes a cameo, which I noticed this time. I hadn't read that yet, that she made a cameo, but when I was watching it this last time, I was like, oh my God, there she is, because I know what she looks like. And she's whenever they're giving their initial kind of lecture in the hall, she's sitting in the audience, so you can see her. Yeah. She has a very distinctive face and style. The Warrens alleged that the Perron family, a mother, father, and 5 daughters, were all haunted by the spirit of a witch named Bathsheba Sherman, who had lived in their home in the 19th century. According to Ed and Lorraine, Bathsheba had cursed the land so that whoever had lived there would somehow die a terrible death. And again, this is the subject of The Conjuring. While it's true that at least one of the Perron girls maintains that she believes the house was actually haunted, it's also alleged that Carolyn Perron, who was the subject of the demon possession in the film, she was said to have suffered chronic illness that kept her bedridden most of the time. And her husband, Roger, was abusive and a strict Catholic conservative who hated his wife's more liberal views. So there's, yes. So while people in the family maintain that they believe the house was haunted, you also have to take in the evidence of like, you moved this woman who had like a chronic illness, depression, and was being like mentally and verbally abused by her husband to the middle of fucking nowhere with her 5 daughters. And then she began suffering chronic illness that it was said kept her bedridden and also made her look a lot older than her age. And this is when her husband, Roger, kind of like called in for help. Like, I think my wife is possessed. So it's like, well, is she possessed or is she just suffering from like depression and illness?
Yeah.
And long-term abuse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, and like the things began to escalate because he was very conservative. She was more liberal, and she became more outspoken during Nixon's administration. She was very like opposed to the Nixon administration, which caused the couple to fight. It caused a lot of tension within the home. So
she must be possessed.
Yes. Was she possessed by an evil devil worshipping witch, which is what the
Jesus.
Which when you
named
rewatch
Bathsheba.
Yes, when you rewatch The Conjuring, you're like, oh, this is bullshit. You know what I mean? Because you're just like, it's too perfect of a story, because it's like a witch who worshipped the devil, who sacrificed her baby to the devil, whose name is Bathsheba. You're like, this feels like too much. It's too perfect of a haunted house story, The Arnie Johnson case centered around the idea that Arnie's girlfriend's little brother, David Glatzel, who was 12 at the time, had been possessed by a demon, and that during an exorcism, the demon somehow transferred into Arnie's body, leading him to murder his landlord a few months later. So this little boy had an exorcism. Like, that did happen. Mm-hmm. They're like, he's possessed by the devil. He had an exorcism. And then a few months later, his sister's boyfriend murders someone. And they're like, I know what happened. The devil transferred from this little boy's body into that guy. And that's why he killed
plausible.
His landlord.
Very
Obviously.
plausible.
Mm-hmm. Obviously.
Yes. The Glatzel family would later claim that Ed and Lorraine concocted the possession story to exploit the family and David's mental health issues. The Warrens would go on to write a book about the case called The Devil in Connecticut and would claim that profits from the book would be shared with the family. It would later be proven that the family received only $2,000.
Shocking.
Mm-hmm. The Glatzels trusted the Warrens. Like, there's so many pictures of them together. Like, they hung out there all the time. They were said to be really charming people. So they made friends with this family. They hung out there all the time. They really did like trust them, and the Glatzel family felt that they were taken advantage of, and so much so that they later sued them for violation of right to privacy, libel, and emotional distress. So the documentary on that is called Devil on Trial. It's on Netflix. And it left me believing that the Warrens took full advantage of a family in crisis. Now, granted, any documentary you watch is slanted, like depending on who's being interviewed and what their point of view is. But that really is how I felt by the end of that documentary. Arguably, the most famous case the Warrens were involved in was the Amityville haunting. And this case has been covered a million times, but just for a quick overview, in 1974, Ronnie DeFeo murdered his parents and 4 siblings in their Amityville, Rhode Island farmhouse. 2 years later, the Lutz family would purchase the house and leave less than a month later, claiming that the house was haunted by a malevolent spirit.
Well, and here's the thing. I fucking buy that. That one I believe. I'm like, I would never live in a murder house.
I wouldn't
million
either.
years.
I agree with you. I mean, I would not live in this house either. I wouldn't live in a house where a bunch of children were murdered. Like, just for me, it would feel icky. I would never be able to not think about that.
Vibes.
Tear it down.
It has been this particular case was so popular and so looked into that it has been almost universally debunked and widely reported and accepted by pretty much everyone that the Lutzes and the Warrens were in it together to make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the entire haunting was a deliberately planned hoax. The Warrens do maintain that this is the most haunted place that they've ever been to, but they also benefited considerably financially by sticking to that narrative, cashing in on paid TV appearances, including they included Amityville in their books and as paid consultants for the movies, etc. So as proof of the haunting, they provided a photo of a ghost boy that looked suspiciously like one of the photographer's own children.
Oh, Jesus.
It was widely reported by people who knew the Warrens that Ed in particular would go to lengths to create or legitimize their stories of hauntings, including providing pictures of ghosts that were literally people wearing white sheets.
Oh my God.
Horror.
Try harder, please.
Try harder. Well, you don't have to, because people just buy this shit wholesale, you know? Horror novelist Ray Garton, who was hired to write an account of the Snedeker haunting, which focuses on Carmen Snedeker, her ill son, and their family's house, which this is The Haunting in Connecticut, that movie, if you've ever seen that movie, which was allegedly a former funeral home that was infested with anal rapist demons.
Whoa.
They leave that part out of the movie. I rewatched it recently.
Wait, what? What?
Yeah. So this
specific.
Yes. Do you have a question?
It's very specific.
So this horror novelist,
oh my God,
he says that, you know, he's like looking at all the research, like he was hired to write this book, and he goes to Ed and he presents Ed with concerns about factual inconsistencies. And he says that Ed not only brushed him off, but also admitted that they were scamming people, saying, quote, as I gathered, so this is the author said this, as I gathered all the necessary information for the book, I found that the accounts of the individual Snedekers didn't quite mesh. They just couldn't keep their stories straight. I went to Ed with this problem. Oh, they're crazy, he said. Everyone who comes to us is crazy. Otherwise, why would they come to us? You've got some of the story. Just use what works and make the rest up and make it scary. You write scary books, right? That's why we hired you. So just make it up and make it scary.
Wow. Whoa.
So Garton also insinuated that it was the popularity of the movie The Exorcist and the Satanic Panic that caused the Warren to shift focus from ghosts to demons. It was just more profitable. Yeah.
Yeah, it tracks.
There are so many more examples of the Warrens taking advantage of their subjects or cashing in on things that later would turn out to be pure fabrications. But this is America. Capitalism is king, right? Yep. They might be taking advantage of people's fears and insecurity and mental illness and belief systems.
People are buying it.
But if people are willing to buy it, then you know, why shouldn't they be allowed to sell it? This is this is the argument, right?
Ugh.
Obviously, I think it's morally wrong. This is, you know,
sure.
So you might be asking yourself,
doesn't make it illegal, I guess.
Right? Like, are they that bad? Right? They're, you know, are they really that bad? The answer is
yeah.
Yes. Probably. So all of that stuff is bad enough to me. I think it's morally wrong to take advantage of people's like fears this way. But in 2017, a woman named Judith Penny, who has sometimes been described as Ed Warren's assistant and sometimes as his liaison, came forward with allegations that in the early 1960s, when she was in her early teens and Ed was in his 30s, he began grooming her. So she alleges in a sworn declaration that Ed, with his wife's knowledge, initiated an, quote, amorous relationship with her and moved her into their family home when she was 15.
No.
Where she remained engaging in a sexual relationship with Ed for 4 decades.
Oh, yikes.
Oh.
At first, Judith said that she stayed in a bedroom directly opposite the one occupied by the couple, but eventually she moved into an apartment that was built for her above the home. One night he would sleep downstairs with Lorraine, and one night he would sleep upstairs with her.
Can you fucking imagine?
No.
Chris moving in a
you fucking kidding?
Oh my
Please
God.
get fucked.
It would never happen. Oh my God.
Out of here.
No.
Get the fuck out of here.
That is wild.
On my watch?
Yep. Despite the fact that the Warren estate has denied these allegations, there is some evidence to back up Judith's claim. In 1963, someone reported the relationship.
Wait.
Yes?
I thought Judith was her daughter.
That's Judy, which is even grosser. Judy is the daughter, and Judith is the live-in mistress.
Oh, fucking
I hate this.
Ugh.
So in 1963, someone reported the relationship to the police. Instead of arresting Ed, they took Judith into custody, where paperwork was filed when she was arrested for delinquency. So there is record of this. She says that the police held her overnight and tried to make her sign a statement admitting to her relationship with Ed, but she refused to cooperate. She was ordered by the court to report to a delinquent youth office for the next month. And according to her account, Ed picked her up from school every week and drove her to her mandated meetings. Gross. Wow. Judith is also mentioned in the 1980 book about the Warrens called The Demonologist. Despite their strict Catholic faith, Judith says that when she became pregnant by Ed in May of 1978, Lorraine persuaded her to have an abortion because the birth of the child would cause a scandal and ruin the Warrens' business. And she states that Lorraine's, quote, real God was money.
Yep.
During a tearful, so she recorded this entire, statement, and she gets tearful in this time when she recalls, quote, they wanted me to tell everyone that someone had come into my apartment and raped me, and I wouldn't do that. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do, but I had an abortion. The night they picked me up from the hospital after having it, they went out and lectured and left me at home.
Oh, wow.
Despite not being allowed to have her own children, Judith did the majority of the child minding for the couple's child, Judy. So while they were off lecturing and hunting ghosts and demons, Judith was at home taking care of Judy. She also claimed that Ed was sometimes abusive to Lorraine. Early on, she said she witnessed him backhand his wife so hard she lost consciousness. Quote, sometimes Ed would actually have to slap her across the face to shut her up. She said in one recording. Well, I don't
like that statement.
I don't either, but this is a woman who's been groomed and abused since she was an early teenager.
Right.
So, some nights I thought they were going to kill each other. Judith also claims to have helped Ed back up his claims of ghosts, dressing as the White Lady and posing in a graveyard to be filmed. The Warrens' daughter Judy and her husband Tony maintain that Judith is full of shit, and all Ed and Lorraine did was show kindness to a neglected teenager by taking her in and letting her live in their house. Because she had a hard home life, so they did the nice thing. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
However, perhaps the most convincing piece of evidence that there is to Judith's story is that when Lorraine agreed to do the Conjuring film series, she had it written into her contract that she and Ed could not be portrayed having sex with each other, engaging in extramarital affairs, or engaging in sex with a minor. Seems oddly specific.
Yeah.
to write into your contract, but okay. So you be the judge. I mean, either way, I think we can all agree that while the Conjuring movies are fun and I enjoyed this series, the couple at the center of this series are a far cry from what is represented on screen. Sure. And outside of just being very possibly, almost definitely charlatans and grifters, they also seem to have been pretty bad people. So,
yep. Wow. Well done, dude. The Warrens. Yeah, I had them on my list since like last Halloween, I believe. But that was just, it is, like you said, difficult to find like facts about how they got together and stuff like that, because all of that stuff is just in their words, You
have to just take it with a grain of salt and know that it's, very likely bullshit. A lot of the stuff that they talk about, you really can't trust any of it, because a lot of it was said to maximize their profits and also drive people back to the church at a time when people were experimenting with counterculture and particularly leaving the Catholic Church in droves. So.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That makes me, I wrote down the name of that documentary you were talking about.
Yes,
I think I'm going to cozy up to something like that later
You're
today.
Sounds perfect for tonight.
Seriously.
Before we get into what we are watching, I do want to say we are really aware of what's happening with Hurricane Helene right now. I feel like just by nature of the way that our news cycle is right now, where things kind of overturn so quickly, this isn't getting the kind of attention that it should be getting, given that it's the worst hurricane we've seen since Katrina. And I remember when Katrina happened, and it was on everybody. We had it on at school. Like, it was like news footage was everywhere. And people's homes are being devastated as we speak. So I do want to, and we can, put some of these links in the show notes as well. But I do want to give people some resources if you would like to donate to disaster relief. There are specific disaster relief funds for North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia. But just broadly, if you would like to support the American Red Cross, is always a good way to support. You can actually text to donate. If you text the word Helene, HELENE, to 90999, you can make a donation by text. You can also donate to the Salvation Army and to AmeriCare. So if you go to their websites, they have specific pages dedicated strictly to Helene, where the relief will go directly there. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we get into what we're watching.
No, I think that's really important. I can't believe that it's not getting more coverage, because even the things I've seen on TikTok have been
terrifying. So scary.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're from there, listeners, we're thinking
Hearts
of
are
you,
with you.
of course.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, devastating. Absolutely devastating.
Yeah. What are you guys watching this week?
Well, speaking of possession movies, I did watch The Deliverance, which was getting a lot of attention on social media. Mostly Glenn Close was getting a lot of attention because it is a possession movie that takes place in the projects with Glenn Close as one of the leads. Listen, I think that she's great. I watched the first, because this movie has gotten hated on so much online, and I watched the first half of this movie being like, I was ready to get on my soapbox and write a dissertation about how like a lot of horror fans are just fucking racist and like don't like horror movies that take place in places that aren't New England. You know what I mean? But I still believe that to be true, because I think everyone did a pretty good job. But the movie really does fall apart in like the third act. It gets really weird.
Wait, I'm confused. The Deliverance?
Yeah, so The Deliverance, it's a Lee Daniels movie. He's a very famous black director. He wrote a horror movie. It is also quote unquote based on a true story, and it does take place in the projects, and it is a family who's haunted, and there is possession happening in the house as well. And I think it's I want more horror movies that are not, I love that we're starting to see more horror movies that are set in different cultures. It's not always like a waspy white family.
Well, you should definitely check out Bodies, Bodies, Bodies then.
I'm definitely going to watch Bodies, Bodies, Bodies for some other movies, because the deliverance, unfortunately, wasn't as good as it could have been. There is a really good haunted house movie about African refugees in England who end up in England called His House. That one's really good. And then there is an Indian horror movie that I did enjoy as well. Isn't as good as His House, but it's called, I think, It Lives Inside. So both of those, they have to do with like different cultures and different folklore. But it is like haunted, spooky, scary. So those are my recommendations. If I do still, for Glenn Close's performance alone, you should watch The Deliverance.
Amazing. Well, I finished Mr. McMahon on Netflix.
Jesus. Did you listen to the Behind the Bastards on
I
him?
did. I did.
Wow.
So I think that the Netflix series definitely left out a lot of stuff. Not that it was favorable to him, but it definitely, I mean, they have a disclaimer right at the top, like, hey, we were filming all this before the allegations came out about. So they kept hammering home, like, we were talking to all these people before we knew. Like, so
I don't know that there's new allegations against him.
Yeah, there's a lot of like sexual assault allegations against him.
No, I mean, not surprising.
Yeah,
not at all. Not at all.
He's a
POS,
fucking creep. So I thought it was a well done documentary, but yeah, it definitely, I think, tiptoed around some stuff because he's involved. They interview him a lot, and he does not come off great, man.
Shocking.
He's
He's not media trained well. I feel like men of that age were just like so used to being able to say whatever they wanted. So they're not versed in media literacy well at all.
Yeah. He says some pretty out of pocket weird stuff. He's a weird, creepy individual. Yeah. That just created he created like $1 billion industry.
Empire.
Yeah. Ugh. Weird. Well, anyways.
Well, on a lighter note, I listened to Paul Scheer's book,
nice.
Joyful Recollections of Trauma, and
I love that title. That's amazing.
It's so perfectly titled because it gives you all the, I think everybody has this like kind of underlying knowledge that funny people generally are funny because they've lived through very traumatic experiences. And to survive those very traumatic experiences, we have to laugh at things that probably shouldn't be laughed at. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, especially when you're a child, you live through things that you don't even realize necessarily are traumatic until you start saying them out loud. And you're like, holy shit, that's fucking weird. You're right. That is weird. That isn't normal, So it was, I will tell you this, there are things in there that would be, I think probably would need some content warning that he lived through. But he does deliver it in a way that is very, I think, mindful that, it's like some of these things, but again, it's, honestly, it was a 5-star book for me. I fucking loved it, top to bottom. As somebody who is a full-on listener of, and has been since very early of, how did this get made? I really enjoyed it. I highly think that it's a book that if you're going to get it, you should get on Audible or in some Audible form. To listen to, because him reading it was really incredible. Plus there's so many things that he includes as like a listener of the podcast. You'd be like, oh my gosh, so great, these little bonus clips and stuff, which are really great. But it is joyful recollections, and he really does share stories in a really heartfelt way. I mean, you'll laugh, you'll cry. It was a really incredibly well written telling narrative of, snippets of his life, right?
Oh,
vignettes. Cool. Yeah. So
nice.
Highly enjoyed.
Excellent. Well, hey, if you guys have something that we should read read or watch, if you have a terrible date story, especially if it's spooky, or if you just want to say hello, go to our one-stop shop of a website. It's myworstdatepodcast.com, and we love you so much. Cheers.